The night I invited my boyfriend's mistress and her husband into my backyard, Ethan thought I was throwing a barbecue. He had no idea I'd already seen the hotel photos, or that by dessert, two relationships were going to be over. My name is Vera Keaton. I'm 34 years old, and for 5 years I thought Ethan Caldwell was the man I would grow old with. To everyone around us, we were stable, comfortable, solid. We argued about takeout, stole blankets at night, and debated stupid things at the grocery store. Normal things. Safe things. At least, that's what I thought. The first sign that something had changed wasn't dramatic. It was Ethan's phone. One Saturday morning in October, I came inside after mowing the lawn and found Ethan laughing at something on his screen. The second he noticed me, he tilted the phone toward his chest. Tiny movement. Almost nothing. But I noticed it. "What?" I asked. What? "You were laughing." He shrugged. "Just something from work." Then he locked the phone. After that, it started going everywhere with him. Bathroom, shower, garage. He placed it face down whenever we ate together. Then came the late nights. Ethan worked in brand strategy, so staying late wasn't unusual, but once or twice became almost every week. I'd ask about his day. "Busy. Client stuff. Nothing interesting." Then he'd change the subject. He still kissed me when he left and asked whether I needed anything from the store. But there was something missing behind it. Like he was performing the version of himself he remembered being. I blamed stress. Then myself. I found explanations because the alternative, Ethan cheating on me, felt ridiculous. Until one Saturday afternoon, when it didn't. He was upstairs taking a shower. His phone was charging beside the coffee maker. For maybe 30 seconds, I just stared at it. Then I picked it up. The phone hadn't locked yet. A notification sat at the top of the screen. "Vanessa, last night was incredible. Still thinking about you." My entire body went cold. I opened the thread, and that was the moment my relationship ended. Not when Ethan eventually apologized. Not when he packed a bag. Right there, standing barefoot in my kitchen. The messages went back months. Flirting, inside jokes, pictures, hotel confirmations, arguments about when they could see each other again. Then I found one from Ethan. "Thursday works. Vera thinks I'm staying late for the Benton campaign." I read my own name twice. Something about seeing myself mentioned inside their lie hurt more than almost anything else. Then I found the photographs. Vanessa sitting beside Ethan on what was clearly a hotel bed. His arm around her cheek against his shoulder, both smiling, comfortable, not guilty, not confused, comfortable, like they belonged there, like I didn't exist. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. I nearly dropped the phone. I put it back exactly where I'd found it and walked into the living room. Then I turned on the television. I have no idea what was playing. Ethan came downstairs 10 minutes later, wearing the navy sweatshirt I'd bought him the previous Christmas. He walked behind the couch and kissed the top of my head. "What do you want for dinner?" I stared at the television. "Whatever you want." That was when I learned something about betrayal. Sometimes anger doesn't arrive first. Sometimes your brain gives you nothing. No screaming, no tears, just silence. That night, while Ethan slept beside me, I reconstructed 6 months of my life. Every late meeting, delayed dinner, and sudden errand finally made sense. At 5:40 the next morning, I slipped out of bed and opened my laptop. I searched Vanessa's name, Vanessa Cole. Same company as Ethan. Her husband's name was Daniel Cole. Their profiles were full of family photos, and just 3 weeks earlier, Vanessa had posted an anniversary picture captioned, "Still my favorite person after 12 years." I stared at it until my stomach turned. Until then, part of me had wanted to wake Ethan up, throw the phone at him, demand answers. But now, there was Daniel. Another person living inside the same lie. And if I confronted Ethan privately, he would contact Vanessa before I ever reached Daniel. They'd delete messages, coordinate stories, reduce months of betrayal to one mistake. So I didn't confront him. I copied everything I could: screenshots, dates, hotel names, messages. Then I emailed the evidence to an account Ethan didn't know existed. After that, I closed the laptop and made coffee. When he came downstairs, I smiled. "Morning." He kissed my cheek. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." He poured himself coffee without noticing anything different. That almost made me laugh. For the next 2 days, I kept wondering how you tell a stranger his wife is sleeping with your boyfriend. There isn't a normal opening sentence for that conversation. Then Tuesday evening, Ethan casually said, "We haven't hosted anybody in forever." And just like that, the idea formed. We used to have people over all the time. Neighbors, friends, coworkers, food, drinks, string lights in the backyard. I looked at him. "What about Saturday?" He blinked. "A barbecue?" "Why not?" His face brightened. "Actually, yeah, that could be fun." He grabbed his phone. "We should invite some people from work." I almost smiled. "Sure." He started listing names. Then he said hers. Vanessa and Daniel would probably come. For half a second, I thought I'd misheard him. "You know Daniel?" "Not really. Met him once." He shrugged. "They're cool." "They're cool." I had to look away. "Invite them." Ethan gave me a strange look. "Really? Why wouldn't I?" He studied my face, then smiled. "No reason." The following morning, before Ethan could change anything, I found Daniel's profile and sent him a message myself. "Hi, Daniel. I'm Vera, Ethan Caldwell's girlfriend. We're having a small backyard barbecue Saturday with a few neighbors and people from Ethan's office. Vanessa's invited too. We'd love for you both to come." I expected no response. 20 minutes later. "Sounds great. Thanks for including us." Then another message. "Want us to bring anything?" I stared at the screen. For a moment, guilt hit me. Not because Ethan deserved protection, because Daniel didn't deserve what was coming. But there are moments when kindness and truth stop feeling like the same thing. I typed, "Just yourselves." For the rest of the week, Ethan helped me prepare the yard, hang the lights, buy charcoal, and plan the food. One evening at the grocery store, he said, "Vanessa doesn't eat red meat. We should grab chicken." I looked at him. He froze for just a fraction of a second, then recovered. "She mentioned it at work." "Good memory," I said. He smiled. I smiled back. And neither of us said another word. Saturday came. By noon, the backyard looked perfect. String lights overhead, coolers along the deck, food across the table, music playing quietly. Friends and neighbors started arriving around 4. I played host. I laughed, poured drinks, hugged people. Ethan moved around beside me like everything in our lives was exactly the way it had always been. Then, a little after 5, the gate opened. Daniel walked in first, carrying a bottle of wine. Vanessa followed him. Her hand was holding his. I didn't look at Vanessa. I looked at Ethan. His face changed instantly. His smile disappeared. His shoulders tightened. His eyes moved from Vanessa to Daniel, then finally to me. For the first time since I found those messages, Ethan looked genuinely afraid. I smiled. "Vanessa." "Daniel. I'm so glad you made it." Daniel stepped forward and shook my hand. Ethan didn't move. He just stared at me. And in that moment, I knew he'd finally begun asking himself the right question. How much does Vera know? Ethan thought this was a barbecue. I knew it was the last meal either relationship would survive. For the next hour, I did absolutely nothing. That was the part Ethan couldn't understand. He kept waiting for me to explode. Instead, I handed Daniel a beer. Vanessa complimented the string lights. I thanked her, and Ethan stood beside the grill pretending his entire body hadn't gone rigid. Daniel was warm and easygoing, completely unaware of why he'd really been invited. "This is great," he said. "Vanessa keeps saying we need to do stuff like this more often." "We've been busy," Vanessa said. "Tell me about it," I replied. Ethan's practically been living at the office. Ethan looked at me. Daniel laughed. Same with Vanessa. For half a second, nobody said anything. Then Vanessa lifted her drink. That's campaign season. Of course. Ethan changed the subject. As more guests arrived, he and Vanessa barely looked at each other. Two people who had spent months sneaking into hotel rooms together suddenly couldn't make eye contact across my backyard. Daniel noticed none of it at first. I'm glad I finally get to meet you properly, he told Ethan. Vanessa talks about your team all the time. Hopefully nothing terrible. Daniel laughed. Mostly about how much everybody works. Vanessa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Around 6, I started serving food. Daniel sat beside Vanessa. The open chair across from them went to Ethan. I sat beside him. Halfway through dinner, Daniel looked at Ethan. Vanessa said that Benton campaign nearly killed you guys. My fork stopped. So did Ethan's. The Benton campaign? I asked. Yeah, Ethan said. I remembered the message immediately. Thursday works. Vera thinks I'm staying late for the Benton campaign. Daniel kept eating. At least all those late nights paid off. Vanessa stared at her plate. I looked at Ethan. Apparently. After dinner, he followed me toward the grill. Vera. I kept stacking plates. What? Why did you invite Daniel? There it was. I turned toward him. You suggested Vanessa. That's not what I asked. I invited her husband because that's generally how couples work. Since when do you message people's spouses? I held his gaze. Since when does that bother you? Silence. For 1 second, I thought he knew. Then someone called my name from across the yard. I picked up the plates. Relax, Ethan. You're acting weird. I walked away. A few minutes later, I found Daniel near the dessert table. So Vanessa must be working crazy hours lately. You have no idea. Same with Ethan. 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. His expression shifted. That's weird. Why? Daniel glanced across the yard. She told me Ethan usually leaves earlier than she does. There it was. The first crack. I shrugged. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. But Daniel wasn't listening anymore. He was watching Vanessa. Then Ethan. Vanessa approached me minutes later. Everything okay with you and Ethan? Why wouldn't it be? No reason. Her eyes searched mine. Her fingers trembled around the plate she was holding. By then they both knew something was wrong. They just didn't know how much I knew. The sun disappeared behind the houses. The string lights came on, and I decided they'd waited long enough. I tapped my glass lightly with a fork. The conversations faded. Thanks for coming. There's actually one reason I wanted everyone here tonight. Ethan went pale. I looked directly at him. Would you like to tell everyone why you've really been coming home late? Vera. Or should I? Vanessa stood. This is obviously private. I looked at her. No, Vanessa. This involves you too. Daniel slowly turned toward his wife. What does? Ethan stepped toward me. Vera, stop. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Vanessa's face drained of color. Daniel saw it. What the hell is going on? I looked at him. Your wife has been sleeping with my boyfriend. Someone near the fence gasped. Daniel stared at me. Then Vanessa. Then Ethan. What? She's lying, Vanessa said immediately. I don't know what she thinks she saw, but... Hotel photos. She stopped. Texts. Dates. Messages. Pictures of you together. Daniel looked at her. Vanessa? She looked at Ethan. That was her mistake. Not at her husband. At Ethan. Daniel saw it too. How long? Daniel, please. How long? Ethan finally spoke. It wasn't supposed to... Daniel turned on him. I'm not talking to you. Ethan shut his mouth. Vanessa stepped toward her husband. We've had problems for a long time. What does that have to do with him? It's complicated. No, it's becoming extremely simple. Her eyes filled with tears. I was lonely. Ethan turned toward me. Vera, can we please do this inside? Why? Because this is humiliating. I stared at him. You were worried about humiliation when you were booking hotel rooms? His jaw tightened. I made a mistake. A mistake? It wasn't supposed to become serious. Vanessa stared at him. What? Ethan froze. What do you mean it wasn't serious? Vanessa demanded. That's not what I meant. You told me. Vanessa. Daniel let out a short, broken laugh. Unbelievable. Suddenly the affair wasn't just destroying two relationships. It was destroying itself. Daniel looked at me. You have proof? Yes. I unlocked my phone. Vanessa reached for him. Daniel, don't. He stepped away. Don't touch me. I showed him one photograph, 2 messages, and a hotel date from a night Vanessa had supposedly been at a work dinner. That was enough. He handed my phone back. We're done. Vanessa started crying. Please. We're done. What about the kids? His expression hardened. Don't use them now. Then he headed toward the gate. Daniel. He turned. Don't follow me. Something in his voice stopped her. He looked at me once. Not angry. Not grateful. Just devastated. Then he left. The gate slammed behind him. People began leaving soon after. A neighbor squeezed my shoulder. Someone else quietly told me to call if I needed anything. Vanessa disappeared without saying goodbye. Within 15 minutes, the backyard was empty except for Ethan and me. The string lights swayed above us. Half-empty glasses covered the table. Ethan stood near the grill. You planned this. Yes. You could have confronted me privately. And given you time to call Vanessa? He looked away. Vera, I screwed up. I said nothing. 5 years has to mean something. It did. His face crumpled slightly. We can fix this. No. Counseling. Whatever you want. No. He stepped closer. I love you. Once those words would have stopped me. Now they sounded insulting. I want you out. He stared at me. Tonight. Vera. Tonight, Ethan. For the first time, he looked genuinely frightened. He'd spent months assuming that if I discovered the truth, he'd get a chance to explain. He'd prepared excuses, apologies, maybe even tears. What he hadn't prepared for was me already being finished. I walked toward the back door. Behind me, Ethan said my name. I didn't turn around. I stepped inside and closed the door. Through the glass, I could see him standing alone beneath the string lights we'd hung together 3 days earlier. That morning, Ethan had woken up believing he still had a girlfriend, a home, and a secret. By midnight, he had none of them, and the consequences were only beginning. The fallout started before breakfast. By 9 the next morning, 3 people had texted me. By noon, half our social circle knew. The truth didn't stay in the backyard. Ethan had packed a duffel bag the night before and left after trying to convince me to reconsider. I didn't. The next morning, I found his coffee mug in the sink. For some reason, that nearly broke me more than the hotel pictures. 5 years doesn't disappear because you discover one terrible truth. His jacket was still by the door. His shoes were still beside mine. But Ethan was gone. He texted around 10. Can we please talk without an audience this time? An hour later. What I did was wrong, but what you did last night was cruel. That one almost made me laugh. He still wanted the argument to be about the barbecue, about humiliation, about anything except months of lying to my face. I didn't answer. Most friends were supportive. A few weren't. One mutual friend called. I know you're angry, but exposing him like that was brutal. Cheating on me for 6 months was brutal. People make mistakes. 6 months isn't a mistake. It's a schedule. That ended the conversation. The bigger consequences came from work. 2 days after the barbecue, one of Ethan's coworkers messaged me. Apparently, enough people from the office had been there that rumors reached management. Ethan and Vanessa had used late work nights as cover, and now people were asking whether company travel, hotel bookings, or work time had been involved. I didn't contact their employer. I didn't need to. Vanessa was placed under internal review, while Ethan was pulled from a major client account as management sorted through what had happened. Then Daniel called. It was 6 days after the barbecue. Vera. His voice sounded exhausted. Yeah. It's Daniel. I know. A pause. I wanted to thank you. You don't have to. I think I do. He'd taken the kids to his parents' house while Vanessa stayed at home. Then he'd started going through credit card statements, calendars, and old messages. The timeline was worse than either of us had realized. I think it started 8 months ago. I'd known about 6. 8 somehow hurt differently. There's a hotel charge from February, Daniel said. She told me she was visiting her sister. February. Ethan had told me he was helping a friend move. 2 lies. Same hotel, same weekend. We sat in silence, both realizing we'd been living parallel versions of the same deception. I'm filing for divorce, Daniel said. I'm sorry. So am I. But I'm not changing my mind. Neither was I. Over the next few weeks, Ethan moved from remorse to nostalgia, then anger. I miss you. 5 years deserves a conversation. Then finally, you wanted to punish me. Congratulations. I answered that one. I didn't end our relationship at the barbecue, Ethan. You ended it in the hotel room. He didn't reply. A few days later, he came for the rest of his things. I made sure a friend was there. While packing, Ethan found a framed photograph from a trip we'd taken 2 summers earlier. We were happy here. We were. Doesn't that matter? It mattered then. He put the frame into a box. At the door, he stopped. Vanessa and I aren't together. Why are you telling me? I thought you'd want to know. I don't. Apparently, Vanessa believed Ethan had promised her something more. Ethan insisted he'd never planned to leave me. After risking 2 households for each other, they couldn't even agree on what the affair had meant. Daniel filed for divorce. Vanessa tried to repair things. He refused. Ethan permanently lost the client account, though he kept his job. Vanessa eventually left the company. None of it felt like victory. The real change was quieter. I cleared Ethan's things from the bedroom, changed the sheets, rearranged the house, and slowly discovered that the silence I'd dreaded could also feel peaceful. I poured myself into work, and a few months later accepted a promotion I'd previously hesitated to pursue. For the first time in years, my future didn't require Ethan's approval. Daniel and I stayed loosely in touch. Nothing romantic, nothing complicated. Just occasional messages between 2 people who understood what the other had survived. One afternoon, he sent me a picture of his kids playing in his parents' backyard. They're doing better. I am too. I wrote back. Good. Keep going. And we did. Eventually, people stopped asking about the barbecue. Ethan stopped calling. Vanessa became a name I heard less and less. Then one evening, months later, I walked into the backyard alone. The string lights were still hanging overhead. I hadn't turned them on since that night. For months, I'd considered taking them down. Every time I looked at them, I saw Daniel standing at the gate, Vanessa crying, Ethan staring at me as his secret collapsed. But that evening, I realized something. It was my backyard. Those lights belonged to me. So I plugged them in. One by one, the bulbs flickered on above the patio. Nothing dramatic happened. No rush of triumph. No feeling that I'd won. I just sat down and looked at the yard. For years, I'd thought closure would come from Ethan understanding what he'd done to me. It didn't. Closure came when I stopped needing him to understand. Some people still thought inviting Daniel to that barbecue had been cruel. Maybe it was. But Ethan and Vanessa had depended on secrecy. They needed Daniel and me separated, each of us hearing different excuses in different houses. All I did was put everyone in the same backyard and remove the one thing their affair couldn't survive. The lie. Months later, sitting beneath those same lights, I finally understood what mattered. Ethan hadn't taken my life from me. He'd only removed himself from it. And once the truth was out, I discovered I liked the space he left behind.